Hi, my name is Zen, and I'm here to make your life a little bit easier in this crazy industry. And today's topic is Graph Editor. If you thought by taking an art job you will never have to deal with math, I have bad news for you. Graph Editor is a pure math, and it's awesome. Personally, when I saw the graph editor for the first time, I fell in love. It made sense to me and I really enjoy using it throughout my animation practice. But I can clearly see how it could be a problem for a lot of people who do not have that mindset of how the graphs work. So hopefully today my video will help you to understand it even if you fail your math test. How to use graph editor, we're gonna go through basics. I'm not gonna go into some very deep complicated things you can do with graph editor, but just basics. What does it do? Why does the line curve that way? What does the distance mean? What are the colors mean? What can we do with the graph editor to make our life easier as animator? And after explaining the basics of graph editor, I want to give you a small challenge to try, just so you can see for yourself how well you know graph editor. Let's go. And when I said we are going back to basics, I meant that we are using cubes, not rigs. Probably the most basic thing you need to know about graph editor, it's in the Windows Animation Editor's graph editor. It will open you this bad boy that you can attach anywhere you want. I usually have it on my second screen, but because it's a bit hard to stream two screens at the same time, we're gonna squeeze it right here. Now, when you open Graph Editor, you won't see anything, even if you click on the objects, unless it has a key. Like in this case, this cube has keys, this cube doesn't have keys, so you can see graphs when keys are created only. So let's take this cube, we're gonna create a key, and we're gonna create a key at the end. Right now nothing is happening. Let's just drag it forward and we're gonna do the same, create key, but this one we're gonna drag back. Now let's take a look at the graph here. We can see there's one graph coming here and there's another graph coming here. You already, if we shift select both objects, you already can see something interesting, that they kind of oppose each other, right? So one object moves one way, the other object moves the other way. So this is number one thing you need to figure out about graph editor. So it has things that are called translation, rotation, scale, and visibility. However, what we need to understand is these guys. Do you see the top one is we have a value of it, of the key at 3 and the value of the bottom key at -5. So where is the 0, you would say? Well, 0 is exactly this axis, right? So the moment your object crosses the center of this object, crosses this line, let's create a key here, it becomes minus. Here it's still plus, here it is already minus. Yeah, okay, makes sense, right? It's not so complicated. The same will be with up and down. So up, we have some points up. You can see right now it's 3. And if we drag it down, we'll have minus. The same works for left and right. So if our object is on the we can see the z-axis. I already turned on so you can see clearly this is the positive side, where the arrows are pointing, that's going to be positive side. Where they're not there, opposite side, it's going to be negative value. So translations are in the points. There is no measurement system in Maya like meters, kilometers, or like inches and feet. It's just points. Okay, so you can't exactly say like 2 meters or 3 meters here. This is just minus or plus amount of points, right? And you can clearly see that this number at the key, translation Z, let me go here and select it, reflects exactly a number here. This number and this number is the same because if you change it here, it changes here. It's our value, right? It's how many points up or down it moved. And this is the key. So if I go select this key and I switch manually number to, let's say 56, it will switch the key. So you know that in graph editor you also have keys at the top. You can see here, this is also where the keys are. So by understanding that, we understand that to move the key, we go right to left. We can go by switching it here, or we can go by switching it here to get an exact precise key that you want. Okay, so this is how we switch the keys. But if you wanna change the value, you will go up and down. So it's the same way here. So the lower it is, the graph, the more minus it will be. The higher the graph is, the more plus it will be. So the plus and minus we figured out is on this grid. This is where the plus or minus counts from. By the way, I'm moving the key by holding the middle mouse click. If you just try to use the normal click button, the left side, it's not going to move. So you hold middle mouse and you drag it. So you can see you kind of move across. It moves value and the key. So in order to avoid it, hold shift and then drag it on the left or right. And you can let go, hold the key, and then just drag it up and down just to change the value if you don't need to change the key. So here's the translation. Let's get to rotation. Now, we all know that we can rotate stuff, right? So let's just rotate it a little bit. You can see it rotated minus 83. But what is minus 83? Is it points, meters, or what? Now, when it comes to rotation, it's degrees. So let's get it to 0. Back again, just deleted the key. So this is our 0. So if I put here 45, it's going to rotate for 45 degrees. If I'm going to put 90, it's going to be 90 degrees. So our cube will exactly rotate on 90 degrees on each of those axes. It's going to be always degrees. So rotation in Maya counts as degrees. Let's put 360. Maybe smarter to show on the z-axis. So let me put 360 and voila. And we're back to exactly the same key. So if I jump between the keys, it looks the same. There you go. And it rotates 360 degrees. Now, slowly moving on to the interesting parts of these cubes. Let's just have some animation that we're gonna do. I'm just gonna drag this randomly around and ooh, that actually looks like fun. Whee! You can see that both of their graphs will show up, but sometimes it's a bit hard to see what's going on when you have multiple objects or controllers selected. For that reason, you have buttons 1, 2, and 3, or you can switch it right here. You see this icons 1, 2, 3. By pressing 1, 2, 3 inside Graph Editor, your mouse have to be inside here because pressing 1, 2, 3 in the viewport does kind of different things. So do not press while your mouse is here. You move your mouse in the Graph Editor and then you can press 1, 2, 3 by switching different views. Now they are called as follow: absolute, stacked, and normalize. So most of the time I use absolute view because it helps me to see zero axis, right? So you kind of know that this is the positive, the top, this is the negative, and we're back to positive. But if you have two objects to animate, sometimes it's nicer to see all of the graphs. This is the one that will allow you to see each graph separately. It's the stacked view, second one. And then you have normalized view, when it kind of ignores zeros and so on, and it just helps you to see multiple curves overlapping each other, but a normalized view. So what I mean by normalized, if you for some reason have one of your objects, and very often that's going to be a root controller of your character. It's like all the way somewhere in the sky, and very often you drag your character away, far away from the 0, 0 axis. Let's go back to the absolute view. So the absolute view takes 0 into the view and arranges all the curves in the way that mathematically and logically should be put. So if you have something very far away, you will just have one curve sticking out, and that's not very convenient, right? What if you need to see them all together and so on? So that's why there is a normalized view exist. They're both very useful for there's no particular rule that you must stick to only one of these views, so find the one that is more useful to you and use it. Let's use our graph editor to figure out what is the time and space with which our cubes move. So right now we only animated one axis, right? Whoop. So let's take a look at this axis. You can see that it's very smooth, very like nicely like going. Does it say anything to us? Yeah, actually it does. It says a lot. So on top of the graph editor, you can see there's this icons that can change the type of the curve we have here. So if we click on this one, it's called linear tangent. Suddenly, the whole curves become completely straight. So it's like a super straight line. So let's see if it changed something. It does, right? So interesting. It didn't change our timing, but it did change our spacing, because the amount of curvature or straightness of the line will indicate your spacing, and your timing will be indicated by the keys. So you push here, you change the time. You push in the key right in the middle, so the time has changed because now your animation only till frame 52. That's our timing in graph editor, and from left to right and from top to bottom is our spacing. Let's return the key where it belongs so we can compare two cubes. Now let's say this cube should be going very fast. I want it to go very fast. So let's insert the key. We can press S, but sometimes when you press S, it kind of screws up your tangents a little bit, so be careful. Let me show you maybe here. Yeah, see, when I press S on the curved tangent, the line kind of changes when you press S. So to avoid that, I would say select the curve, right click, insert a key, or you can hold I and click. And let's say I'm gonna move it all the way up. I'm changing the spacing, and I am gonna make this one almost flat. You can see here that this part is almost flat. To be honest, I think first few keys are kind of flat, right? So the flatter your curve is, the less there is a difference between keys in the up and down, like becomes completely flat, the least spacing you get. So let's see. No, and then we go wee, speeding up, right? So what happens if I push it like this then? See, you have a key here and then a key here, but the graph, right, is on top of the keys. So that will create us anticipation, because now we know that whatever is going higher, right, on our graph editor is more of a positive value, and this is 0. So going this way, it's like from 0 to plus infinity, right? So if this is 9, this is 8, and this line is above it, it will go slightly back and then go forward. And again, if we want a straighter, even faster, we can try to make this line even straighter. But you would say like, hey, but it still doesn't feel fast, right? Like this line is super straight, but it's not fast. Well, it's not fast because of the timing, but not because of the spacing. Your spacing is as fast as this cube can go right now. So if you want to make it go even faster, right, you can't make this line any more straighter. It's already as straight as this. You need to go and bring the timing of this whole thing down. Hold shift, align it with the other key. Very fun trick that you can do only in a graph editor in Maya. Don't try to copy it in your viewport. Select this key, press Ctrl C, then press Ctrl V. It copies the key. You can actually Ctrl C, Ctrl V keys in a graph editor, but just be careful. If your mouse is on the viewport, it will Ctrl C, Ctrl V the object, and it might really hang or crash your Maya. Please be careful having your mouse exactly here when you do it. So let's put it back into our linear key and see the difference. Zoom. There we go. It finally got faster. But let's say that, what if we put this one also on the faster one? Will it go faster? It will go as fast as it can, but it won't exactly go much faster because the speed is still highly depends on the timing, not the spacing. This is just the straight key is as much spacing as it can make linearly in this timing. So if you want something to go faster, change the timing. So let's go like this. Boom. Nice. And if you wanted to have the object slowing down again here, you can just bring that key up again, make it back to the auto key or spline key. Spline key will give you a bit of the bounce, so be careful. Sometimes auto key is a better choice, or you can use the is in graph. So we have created a small is in here. We can even push it further, and by pushing further, we can make something really fast, because now you have only one key for our cube to go, boom, boom. So it's super fast. So remember something very, very useful. This will literally teleport you. So whatever is perpendicular, like 90 degrees down, that will be as fast as something can go in a graph editor, okay? But this is already not animation, this is already teleporting, so at least leave a key or two in between. And you can always add another key to even speed up your cube even more by pushing it down. So you'll have like a manual slow in. You can see that it's going faster. You can make your custom spacing. So now what you have is that your object is kind of like our anticipation is still here, nice. Going back, let's take a look at our graph strip. This indicates that the object will go back a bit. Going back a bit. Then it's going faster. You can see that I have made spacing between these two keys slightly smaller than between these two keys, because this is like the first key starts moving faster, so you don't want it to be too far spaced out. So it's kind of like tiny is out, then it's super fast. It's already at the end pretty much. Then it's eases in. Let's see what we got. Boom. Boom. Now, see, in anticipation, it kind of starts moving already a bit too early. So you change the key here to, let's get the spline key maybe. And we can get our another key over here. So to make our anticipation a little bit more drastic. This is much better. And if you don't want it to kind of go forward too early, you can also flatten it out a little bit, so it kind of makes the cube almost staying there. There you go, much nicer. So let's read the graph editor one more time. What's happening in our space here? So as you can see, this is almost flat, but you can see a little bit of a curvature. Then it's a very fast drop down, with pretty much the sharper, like the more steep the drop down is, the faster the object will go. And it's not only depends on the spacing, but it's also on the timing. So you will need to manipulate both. And then you will have again the is out part, where you can see the object is kind of getting like slowing, flattening. For is out, you want to have more space, so your object has time to go those slow keys. There you go. And there's a little bit of overlap created by this key. We can even push it a little bit more if you want, like a tiny overlap and going back. Why is it important to read this? Because sometimes in your character animation, you might have some jerkiness, you might have something going like a little bit, and you're like, why is it kind of going back and forward? Well, zoom in, it might be this, right? So if you flatten this, you will not have any more of anticipation or overshooting of your object. And at the same time, if you want to create a tiny overshoot, instead of trying to make it manually, you can just take this line and just push it a bit out to create that tiny overlap. Now we can quickly compare the graphs for these two cubes. You can see that they changed dramatically after we did some tweaking, and you probably now can understand how important it is to add extra keys and able to read your graph editor, because this line is what Maya does by default. it just makes your cube travel from point A to point B. But what you can do with the graph editor, with the ability to read it and with the ability to manipulate it, is to create very good time and space by just using what you can see here. Of course, your viewport is for you to check your animation, but the ability to read the graph editor, you can clearly see which one of them is fast cube, which one of them is a slow cube. And if you want to train yourself in how to use graph editor, I'll highly advise you do a blind test. Create a cube like this, maybe just make it go from last key to the first key, probably shorten it 120. It's kind of very long animation, maybe just 50. You can test with a bouncing ball. I'm just sick of bouncing balls, so I'm using cubes. What you can do, you can hide your, tear it off, viewport completely like this. And it's a small fun challenge for you. So what you can do, you can try to animate your cube, maybe bouncing, maybe going fast, maybe going slow, by not looking at viewport at all, and see how well you actually understand your graph editor. It's a very fun challenge I used to give in my studio for animators to have fun, and honestly you can get some crazy outcomes, but it will also help you to understand how well you know your graph editor and how well you can use it without looking at the viewport. That's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna animate the cube, not looking at my viewport, only using graph editor. I have first and the last key just to know the distance, how far it travels, and no peeking. Challenge yourself. So I was going for a very cartoony jump. Let's see what I got. Oh, now I'm nervous. Hopefully it will look quite nice. There you go. Yeah, so here you go. You can do a blind test like that to see if you actually understand what's going on in Maya, if you actually understand the time and space. But it's really fun, and this is how you can create a perfect, well, bouncing cube, because for the difference, right? Too many bouncing balls. So yeah, try that yourself and see if you actually understand the graph editor. Did you try it? If you do, please leave a comment below and tell me how was your experience trying to not looking at viewport and only animating by graph editor. Don't worry if it didn't work out the first time. Honestly, graph editor is something you really need a lot of experience in order to achieve a good result. But when you start understanding it and you start using it more, it will become your biggest ally in animation. I hope you enjoyed today's video and I hope you learned something new, and please share this video, please subscribe. I'm a full-time animator. I don't have much time to do these videos, so that's why they're only once a month. Don't lose me. Subscribe, like, leave a comment. It will help me, it will encourage me to do more. And if you have more questions regarding animation in Maya, 3D animation, or maybe animation life at all, leave a comment, ask me, and as always, stay healthy, animator.